our startups do have slides. They have 5 minutes on the clock to impress the judges, to impress the audience, and then we have 3 minutes worth of Q&A. So can we please welcome our very first pitcher to the stage, Everty. Give him a round of applause.
Hi, I'm Carola, and I'm the CEO and founder of Everty. We're a software company in the electric vehicle charging sector. Well, you all know that EVs are coming. Some markets are progressing nicely and quickly, others a bit slower. But in Australia last year, we tripled the sales of EVs. And we also have 140% growth in public charging infrastructure to service the EVs. But I guess most interesting this week, the UK proposed a ban on all petrol and hybrid cars by 2035. So EVs are definitely here to stay, and we're ready to serve them. So our purpose is to make it really easy for EV drivers, the charging station operators, and the grid to cope with the influx of electric cars coming into the market. But there are a few problems. We're all used to going to a petrol station. This network of petrol stations is operated by a very small number of fuel suppliers. With EVs, we're turning this on its head. Every car park with electricity, every workplace, every shopping center, at home, we will be plugging in the cars like we do with mobile phones. So that will lead to a very fragmented and decentralized market. But also looking at our building stock, can you imagine putting 50 car chargers in one of our old buildings and then expect to charge 50 cars at the same time? That'll be causing real upgrades, or you have to manage the way we charge the cars. And I'm using LV networks here, but it's basically like just a description for the electricity grid. Once we have hundreds of thousands of cars, they all demand electricity, and most of them when they come home at 6 o'clock. So if that is unmanaged, we will see more gold plating and upgrades in the grid. So our current software, as I said, we want to make it really easy. Drivers use our app to activate a charging station and pay via credit card. But for the operator, that's the crucial thing. They have a tool that helps them manage the charging station. So you get your remote diagnostics, troubleshooting, anything that you need to do with electrical assets. But you also control the power levels, the output of the charging station. And that is important when you have load constraints. In the future, our roadmap product is a utility product where we can actually help the utilities forecast the charging demand at any given time and help them balance the grid. So here's a bit of the market size. If you look at the established markets, US, China, Europe, you still see, while they have already millions of chargers deployed, there's a 10 times growth in these markets. If you then look at the emerging markets like Australia and India, they will grow even faster because we've got a bit of catching up to do. So in this slide, Tesla and ChargePoint, they have their own software bundled with their own hardware. Having said that, like Tesla is not one of our competitors. They're building supercharger networks for their own cars, for Teslas only. We're agnostic. We supply chargers, operate chargers for all cars. There's another player, ChargeFox, who has their own software, but they're very much focusing on building highway charging locations. That is ultra-rapid chargers where you pump a lot of electricity into a car very quickly. We look at a different segment, and that's your workplaces, your built environment, like everywhere where you do your day-to-day charging, not your long-distance travel. So our core revenue comes from a subscription fee that the ChargePoint operators pay to us on an annual basis. But we will also be taking a clip of the ticket from EV drivers, and in future have a separate product, as I said, for networks and utilities who will pay a premium price for managing the EV infrastructure. We're going to market with B2B direct sales with our in-house team, but we also have very good relationships with the charging station manufacturers, and they send leads and referrals our way all the time. So here's some of our customers. Lendlease operating chargers for a big residential apartment building, UTS operating chargers in public car parks, and TES Networks, City West Water, they use it for their corporate fleets that they're transitioning to EVs. So that's the team. I've got a couple of years in clean tech. My colleague Lance has actually worked for over a decade for ChargePoint in Australia and the US. And we've got a really good team of software developers. Our advisors come from ex-Tesla, ex-General Motors, and Telstra, so we're getting the whole automotive and telco insights as well. So we're here to provide a seamless electric vehicle charging experience, and we're currently raising capital to scale up our operations. Please come and see me after this event, and I'm happy to talk to you. Thanks. I'm Carola Jonas, CEO and founder of Evity.
Evity, for that wonderful pitch. It's hard to go first. Now we have a microphone for our judges, so can we get 3 minutes on the clock for judges Q&A?
Great. Hi. It's a great pitch. Thank you so much for that. In terms of your go-to-market strategy, so Australia's a little bit behind than the rest of the world in terms of the infrastructure. Where are you sort of trying to focus to get that competitive advantage over the others that are looking to do this?
So you mean the competitive advantage in Australia over the other
yeah,
players?
what's your go-to-market strategy to get a competitive advantage before the others in the
before the others
service
come into the market. Yeah, so what we're focusing on is building real integrations with other systems, your accounting system, your building management system, and that's not hard to crack for someone who comes from the outside into a market building the same integration. So we're creating stickiness with our customers to protect our market share.
Can you tell us a little bit about the nature of your sale, the customers that you have so far, how long it took, what the sales cycle looked like?
Yeah, so for them, some of them, it's really long sales cycles because it's B2B enterprise software, and for them to make the decision to really deploy charging infrastructure takes some time, but they're all moving now, especially like in the built environment. When you go to shopping centers today, almost all shopping centers have EV chargers, and the ones that don't, they miss out, because when I drive my car, I go to a shopping center that has charging. So they're all getting on board now.
Can you talk a little bit more about what the rollout has been with the customers and how many charging points you've activated and what those deals look like?
Yeah, so we've got, so in the app we have like a map that shows the charging locations, and we've got about like 45, 50 pins on that, but we also have a lot of chargers that are in corporate car parks that wouldn't appear on a public map because they're not open to the public. So there's different products for corporate fleets and private residential settings compared to the public charging.
But on average, say, are you signing a 12-month contract with a customer?
Yeah, it's an annual subscription fee up front, and we're also providing the connectivity through 3G, 4G SIM cards and modems, and that's again like how we wrap them into our business model to stick with us. And normally these charging stations, they're good for like, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. We haven't seen any charger fail yet, so that's what we think is like our, at least, turnaround with these customers.
What's your predicted revenue for this year and the next following years?
Yeah, so for this year, we're probably looking at 380 to 400K in revenue, but then we'll scale up massively because we're really needing the cars to come in. And we've seen from, as I said, like car sales has tripled. If that keeps growing that way, the infrastructure is being deployed now as the cars are coming in.
So, do we have Medinet? Where is Medinet? Please come to the stage. You're all mic'd up. Give a round of applause as she walks on the stage. You have 5 minutes on the clock.
This is my girl, Cleo. Like all new mums, I love spamming my family with cute photos. Also like new mums, I'm often at my GP asking lots of questions. Is this rash normal? Is it an ear infection, or is she just teething? I'm lucky enough to come from a family of health professionals. My dad is an orthopedic surgeon, my brother is a hand surgeon registrar, and my other brother is a pharmacist and owns pharmacies. One late Thursday night, instead of sending cute photos like this, I was instead sending photos like this. The message read, "Is this normal? I'm traveling tomorrow for work, so I need to know now what to do." After a few clinical questions, everyone agreed Cleo had impetigo and required antibiotic ointment. But I was stuck. My regular GP was closed. Not only would I have to find a late-night GP to access a prescription, I'd then need to find a late-night pharmacy. In this context, the average person ends up in the emergency department. And we thought there has to be a better way. Now, there is Medinet. Medinet is an app that allows everyone to connect online with an Australian registered GP 24/7. They can consult either via chat or video consultation. You can access prescriptions and have the medication delivered or pick it up from your local pharmacy. You can access specialist referrals along with upfront information on surgeons' fees, wait lists, location options, and experience. You can access medical certificates and directly email it to your employer. You can also access your pathology results direct to your phone, along with pathology and medical imaging referrals. And this is a really big market. There is a $14 billion market opportunity in Australia alone, as we cover so many aspects of the healthcare system. There is a $10 billion market opportunity acting as a lead generator for specialists and pharmacists, and a $4 billion market opportunity through capturing GP consultations online. And this is the total addressable market. If we were to capture 5% of this market and maintain our current revenue models, we would be looking at $70 million per annum. While there are a lot of opportunities for us to expand into Asia, where Australian doctors are highly sought after, there is also an opportunity for us to expand into the NDIS disability sector, where the government has estimated spend of $13 billion. We are different to our competitors. Most position themselves as an online practice who fill in a gap overnight. We instead are a service offering to traditional brick and mortar medical practices to virtualize their healthcare, which is a much more scalable opportunity. Secondly, most rely on a roster of approximately 20 doctors, so one is available at any given time. We are already working with over 600 doctors, so there is a choice of doctor and they are available immediately. Finally, we aim to be more than a stopgap where you are told, or a triage service, you have to go to ED or you can wait to see your GP tomorrow. To the extent clinically appropriate, we provide all of the services that a patient can access when visiting a traditional brick and mortar practice. We have 4 clear revenue streams. The first is patients who pay a private fee to access our convenient healthcare. The second is pharmacists, who we charge a platform fee for each lead generated. The third is specialists, who we charge a percentage referral fee for any consultations or surgeries booked through the platform. And the fourth is medical practices, whom we charge an annual fee. The federal government released a new rebate at the end of this year, incentivising them to stay open 24/7. They can use our platform to enable and offer access this rebate while not having to pay for the overheads to keep their brick and mortar open. As part of the rebate, they have to advertise to their patients how they're accessible in after hours. So we're in a very unique position where our supply is being forced to advertise us to our demand. We released in August last year. We have 600 doctors already using our platform and strategic partnerships with groups such as My Health Medical Group, the 3rd largest owner of medical practices in the country, along with Sun Doctors. Over 30,000 patients have downloaded the app, and we are now averaging 500 consultations each month. Our month-on-month consultation growth is at 46%, and our active user growth is at 17%. We also in contract negotiations with a private health insurer to white label our product. Our team of 15 includes a management team with strong experience in business execution, health system policy and reform, and technical skills. We also have a large working group of doctors and pharmacists. Thank you very much.
Over to the judges, please.
Tess, well done. You've come a long way since I last saw you pitch. In terms of your traction, how much does it cost you? So are you using paid marketing channels to acquire your demand? And if so, what does that cost on average?
So we have 2 streams to acquire customers being patients. Well, actually, there's a third. If we sign up a medical practice, as per the rebate, they have to advertise us to all of their patients. So that's been a very unique way where it costs us $0 because they are forced to advertise for us. Otherwise, we are using B2B to C channels. So private health insurers is the obvious one. The biggest problem that we're solving for them is international students. They don't have primary health in their own country, so get a cold or gastro and go straight to ED, so it's costing them a fortune. Otherwise, B2C is through more paid advertising, and that's obviously very expensive, so which is why we're focused more on B2B2C.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about privacy. Obviously, it's a big topic at this point. So are you collecting any particular data? And yeah, if you could talk a little bit more about patient privacy.
Sure. Obviously, we are dealing with very sensitive patient data, so that is very important. We collect a lot of health information data. In fact, our long-term aim is we're essentially creating an electronic medical record that the government has struggled to do so. So the main thing is, yes, we are collecting the data. The data is not shared with anyone, so the patient very much owns the data. Even if they send a prescription to a pharmacist, we obtain express consent before we do so. So really, the data's going nowhere. Our job is to make sure we have the right security measures in place to make sure there's no data breach, which we have done so.
Hi, you mentioned, well done on the pitch, that was great. Can you talk a little bit about the appointments that you've had relative to the number of doctors that you've got on the platform? It'd be great to understand how well utilised they are and how they think about contributing to the platform.
Sure. So we're in a unique position where our supply is actually very high. I don't like to tell the doctors this analogy, but they're like Uber drivers. So they have the option to turn themselves offline and online depending on when they're available. So some are working on Thursdays, so they put themselves on just from 5 to 11. We see a surge before work and after work of patients. So we always are communicating to our supply when there's more need. What our doctors love, whether they're seen or not, they're still getting the federal government rebate. So as long as our supply is strong, we have no issues with the demand. So there are doctors available that haven't been used, but they're actually not too concerned by it.
Our next speaker is Gabrielle. Please welcome Gabrielle to the stage.
Hi, I'm Maria from Gabrielle. And what I wanted to show you today is ask you a question. What if I told you throughout this presentation, 10 people are probably going to die from either a bed sore or a falls injury? And what if I also told you this little piece of plastic could have prevented it from happening? What we see around the world is that falls and pressure injuries are costing over $100 billion to the US system. What's happening is by a falls and a pressure injury. A fall in this context is when someone's in a hospital bed and they get out and they're not meant to. Half the time they end up on the floor, maybe with a broken hip or a head injury. A cost for the hospital, which is deemed by insurance as preventable, and one they have to cover themselves. When we look at pressure injuries, we talk about bed sores. And every year, 66,000 people die from a bed sore, something that is essentially preventable. But up until now, no one's been able to. Well, we've solved that problem. It's called the Gabrielle Lifeguard. And essentially what it is this piece of plastic, which we overprint sensors and link it to our AI model. So what we're able to do with a piece of plastic that goes under the mattress protector of every single hospital bed or aged care facility is know where's that person putting pressure. We can tell if they're laying in their bed and they're making that move to try and get out, that they're doing it. If they're trying to get out of the bed, and generally it's at night, we'll turn on the light above them and say, hey, it looks like you're trying to get out of bed. Please stop, help is on the way. We'll raise an alert to the nurse station and a nurse will be on their way to the room to help them out. We've seen research that's shown that that will stop almost 80% of falls in a hospital bed. And because we know where their movement is, we're able to see where they're putting pressure on their body. Where are they likely to develop a bed sore so that we can prevent that? What we've found from hospitals is that we say, how do you prevent bed sores? And the current protocol is, we just roll them every 2 hours and hope for the best. And when we ask, why is it every 2 hours? It's because that's how long it takes the nurses to get around the wards. And Gabrielle Lifeguard will fix that problem. So what we do is, through our sheet on the bed, is gather data. And that data is fed back to a simple dashboard, which can alert there's an exit happening, but also can report on where's the pressure in the body and how good is that sleep quality. So we can start to get things like they have rolled over several times during the night, or they haven't. They've got out of bed more times tonight than they have the other nights. Or in an aged care facility, it's taking them longer to get to and from the bed to the bathroom, which is indicating something's going wrong and that they're diminishing in their mental capacity. We think it's pretty exciting. We're even more excited by the fact that we're now FDA approved. We've got a few patents pending, and as of last night, after 12 months of pain, we're now HIPAA compliant in the US. Which is, if anyone's gone through that process, you know how horrific it is. We're ready to commercialise. So we've got trials happening with the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne, and we've got 2 trials ready to kick off in Hawaii, which is where our research lab is. We're looking to grow and make our product and get it out there. Our financial model is really simple. Each of these sheets cost us around $150 to make, and we're going to lease them to the hospitals for $100 per bed per month. On average, the hospitals are costing $12 million a year to cover the costs from falls and pressure wounds. That same hospital, if they put in our Gabriel sheet, it'll cost them $180,000 a year. Not to mention the reduction in insurance premiums from a lot of less litigation, particularly from our friends in the US. So we're ready to go, and the one thing that is stopping us is cash. So we've already invested $2 million through all our friends and family. We've got a bunch of orders ready to go, and now what we just need to do is get into production, and we'll be able to help a lot of people live a lot better for a lot longer. So thank you.
To our judges.
Yeah, oh, you go.
Thanks very much for the pitch. Great pitch. In terms of other ways of solving the issue, because I do totally agree that there's a big issue. I think I've seen 1 or 2 other companies doing things like using thermal imaging and using kind of visual recognition to work out with pressure source. What's the advantage to using a printed sheet versus cameras?
We find with the cameras you tend to get an overhead view, and that's only one read of what's going on. With the sheet, the next generation, which we're getting it's working in the lab and ready to roll it out, is we've actually managed to turn it into a contactless ECG, and also blood pressure, respiratory, weight and temperature. So it's adding a lot more to it. And also, patients, particularly in aged care, don't really like the idea of a camera or something being above them. There's a big dignity issue and Big Brother watching me. So by having this, they actually don't even know it's on the bed. It's just like an electric blanket that's in there.
Thanks.
Hi, what's the price point of this? And you said that you charge monthly, so yeah, what's your predicted revenue for the first year?
Yeah, so it costs us $150 to make, and we'll be renting it out for $100 per bed per month.
Maria, all the way through 6 years of university, I spent my nights and weekends turning and holding patients while they had their pressure wounds treated. So I'm personally very connected to the problem that you solve. Can you tell us a little bit more? And it was a great presentation, thank you. I think it's a huge market. Could you tell us a little bit more about the nature of the patents that you have?
I could, but then I have to kill you. No, we've got the technology that we're using is not new to World Technology. So these are, I get the word wrong, piezo-resistant plastic, as well as then the different sort of way that we've worked out the grid system that goes over it with our sensors, and then the way that that then interconnects with our algorithms and all the rest of it is what's been patented. It's about a 40-page patent.
I was wondering if you could tell me any feedback that you've got in regards to comfort. I know if anyone in the room has spent any significant time in a hospital bed, they're not the most comfortable beds as it is. Have you done sort of tests when it comes to comfort or things like the sheets staying on? Yeah. And will they require the hospital to sort of refit out all new sheets that won't sort of slip on the plastic?
So basically what happens is this goes underneath the mattress protector, so it actually has no direct contact with the sheet or anyone. So the plan and what we're testing with the Alfred and their clinical team at the moment is to make sure that once it's in, it doesn't move. But it's essentially that is the plastic piece that goes in it with some stuff printed on it,
And also,
no one knows it.
from a sound perspective as well, is there any sound that would come from it?
No, because it's underneath most hospital beds now are wrapped, and
There
it's
you
under
go.
that.
That's time. Well done. Give a round of applause. Our next speakers are already in costume, so we have Hive Keepers. Please welcome Hive Keepers to the stage.
Just a minute. Just better put this here. You'll need that when we release the bees. Hi, my name is Simon and this here is Prashant. And at Hive Keepers, we are creating smarter beekeepers and healthier bees for a sustainable future by making hive keeping accessible to anyone, anywhere on the planet. And in doing so, our vision is to make every single hive a smart beehive by 2030. First, I'd like to just explain a little bit about beekeeping. Most people haven't had the pleasure and experience of working with their bees working with bees, and the feeling is akin to pet ownership. And what you see is usually a group of beekeepers spending time working together, putting their own sweat and tears into this beautiful organism. And pardon me. The experience is very unique. To have that personal moment with bees and to be able to have such a special reward and outcome as Prashant is about to show us is something that is not found in many other hobbies or interests that people may have. And that's some beautiful honey that was just found, were taken from our research hive only a few days ago. I'm sure everybody here is very much well aware of the threats and issues facing bees. What we have are so many pressures facing the bees from land use changes, diseases, climate, monocropping farming, that it's creating a real pressure on the bee population globally. What I'd like to show you is a photo that Prashant has here of the fruit and vegetable department, of your local fruit and vegetable department, of a world where we have bees, and what it would be like a world without bees. It's not a comfortable picture to look at, is it? I absolutely can tell you now that there is no way that I want to be stuck eating oranges and potatoes for the rest of my life. The market opportunity here in front of us is astounding. There's 90 million beehives globally, and that's growing at 2% each year. Just here in Australia, to give you an idea, we have 27,000 Australian beekeepers. The majority of those, 95% of them, are small-scale beekeepers. And it's the small-scale beekeepers like Prashant that we are interested in helping in particular. How it is that we want to do that is we have smart-enabled beehive technology where we integrate sensors inside beehives and we support and handhold for that beekeeper their journey through beekeeping. Our research and experience suggests that most small beekeepers, hobby recreational type beekeepers, finish up after just a couple of years because they found it too hard, too much work. And that's because they stumbled across a problem or an issue that they weren't prepared for. Our system, along with our hive technology, helps support them through that particular process. But we can't limit it just there. The commercial side of the industry is also beckoning for our support and assistance to provide real-time tracking of their hive conditions. So for example, what this might look like to you is we have a sensor-enabled hive which shows you the weight, the temperature, humidity, acoustics, and the light that's found all inside the beehive. And this can inform and tell the beekeeper a range of different information so that they can be on the front foot when looking after their bees. For most beekeepers, that's a real advantage, given you would only normally check your bees every few weeks. We have an existing product out there into the marketplace, which is a record-keeping component of our software. We have had huge increase in subscribers and follow-on revenue from that over the last 18 months. And our next stage is to move forward with our roadmap to put these sensors in Australian hives, followed by the global marketplace. What's really important for me to talk to you about here is it's not just about the beekeeper and the bees and that opportunity that it presents for our future food security, but it's about that data opportunity for us that we have then with the beekeeper right through to the supply chain, through to the honey or to the final product at the other end. It's the data and the analytics component that is really special to us. What we're here for tonight is to ask from the audience if there is anyone interested and available to assist us from an advisory board perspective. We're looking for some strong guidance to move forward with our ambitious aims over the next few years. Thank you very much.
In regards to your app, how many subscribers do you have at the moment?
We currently have 650 subscribers annually.
And how much do you charge them at the moment?
The record keeping component is a $60 annual subscription fee.
Simon and Prashant, well done. Best use of props on stage I've seen here at Podfest. My limited experience of beekeeping, often the hives are in places with challenging access to the internet to get the data back to the app. How do you help them solve that problem?
In fact, the sensors are the easy component. The bit that you're talking about is the tough bit. That communications, power supply, CPU out in the field is the real problem. We've had 5 years working on that exact problem at our smart farm up in Harcourt, and we now have been able to rule out most of the devices that are not going to be helpful in that space, because most of them have this suggest that they will work for us, and now we've built our own solution to make sure we can have whatever communication means is applicable for the environment, whether that would be a local Wi-Fi opportunity, 3G, 4G out to LoRaWAN, or even satellite-enabled communication. Whichever way it is, we can plug in the appropriate module to do that.
Just to add to that, our future business looks like more of data and solutions to the beekeeper in a format that it's so easy, just like they're handling a normal Facebook or any other app. So our app in future, and we are doing a lot of research work right now, which is putting our work into making it easy. So there are two components. One is individual beekeeper, and our research shows that beekeeper is a community exercise. They tend to have lots of engagement within themselves. We want to help both the individual and the group.
Thank you for the pitch, guys. Can I ask about those subscribers that you've got to date, how you found them and what process you had to go through with them in terms of training and the sales process?
We've had just broad scale marketing, generally through social media. Beekeeping, as Prashant mentioned, is incredibly community centred and social, and there are huge groups and communities found online, and we can market direct to those people really successfully for not a lot of money and be able to get them to pick up our product and take a look. We also have the ability to then connect into beekeeping clubs globally and push our product through them.
Cool, that's pretty much all we have time for. Thank you. We have our next startup pitch. I hope they're in the room. Relectrify.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Godwin from Relectrify. We're based in Melbourne, and our mission is to help make energy storage affordable. So, in 2025, Bloomberg predicts that 10 million electric vehicles will be sold. That's on top of the many millions already on the world's roads. But automotive manufacturers are sitting on a ticking time bomb. That's because EV batteries, as we all know, don't last forever. But the thing is, they can be given a second life. Although batteries are coming back to manufacturers in ever-growing quantities, they do have approximately 70 to 80% of their original capacity still remaining. So, while no longer suitable for being used in an electric vehicle, a used electric vehicle battery could be used to power homes, businesses, and the power grid. But key to this opportunity is careful management of the many individual cells that make up a battery. When these cells are new, they have very similar capacities. However, as they age, some cells become notably weaker than others. should have been animated, never mind. So yeah, some cells become notably weaker than others. Continuing to operate, the weakest cell leads to a vicious cycle. It ages faster, continues to degrade, and results in the premature failure of the entire battery pack and reduces its usefulness for second life. In response, Relectrify has developed an advanced battery management system. So it looks a little bit something like this, which is one of our earlier prototypes. This one's called Steve, the survivor, because he underwent quite a lot of abuse and still managed to work. Anyway, the basic principle, it combines power electronics with battery monitoring and optimization algorithms to precisely control each and every single cell. So with this, we can draw much more energy from strong cells and much less energy from weak cells. I'll also point out here that our technology is built up from the ground up to be cloud IoT enabled, so we can predict exactly how long each battery cell is going to last. Because we can very precisely control every single cell in a battery, we also do away with an expensive bit of kit known as a battery inverter. You need one of these in pretty much every single battery system. They're heavy, expensive, add to cost, so we'd like to get rid of that. So what does that mean? Customers who use our technology and combine them with second life batteries to build storage can do so at half the cost of using equivalent new batteries. What's more, they can get up to 30% additional lifetime from these EV batteries compared to what they otherwise would have been able to do. And I'll point out here that our solution works equally well for new and old retired EV batteries. It's just, I think more people are interested in EV batteries. So a little bit about us and what we're doing. We were based in Melbourne. We're founded out of Melbourne University in 2015. We have received investment, including from the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. And now we work with the likes of automotive companies who are looking to build EVs. So two of them we've worked with in the past are Nissan and Volkswagen. We also work with power utilities across the world, so in the US and Europe, and we've just done a project in New Zealand as well. And we also work with battery storage manufacturers. So some of the products that our technology helps enable: home energy storage. So this one is an early example. It's Nissan Leaf battery cells. Put our technology on the top, extra lifetime, extra capacity, extra value. Building on the same principle, we can then scale that up. We can go from small kilowatt-hour batteries to multi-megawatt hours. This is a rendering from a recent project we've actually just announced in the US, involving Nissan US and American Electric Power. This is a 72 kilowatt-hour battery, roughly about 25 kilowatts of power. And the principle is that you can scale this up from very sort of, it's, I don't know, it's about the size of this little square here, but you can scale them up indefinitely. So 10 megawatt hours plus. So yeah, I've covered a little bit on who we've worked with. Our team, very briefly, 15 people, mixture of software and hardware engineers, predominantly based in Australia. We might open a European office later this year. We are, however, always on the lookout for very capable new engineers, in particular software. So in particular embedded engineers. If you are one or know one who might be able to help us, then please do get in touch. And finally, we're looking for product partners to help continue to scale. Thank you very much.
How did you guys, thanks for the pitch, by the way, how did you guys confront the challenge of going from really focusing on engineering to sales?
Yeah, so like I said, we started back in 2015, and we saw that this might be a problem, but automotive manufacturers, they're only just starting to build EVs themselves, so they were kind of, a lot of the early work was educating them. They're saying, look, there is this problem that's going to come up, you have to start thinking about this. So I think it was very much early on just trying to build these relationships with these automotives and power utilities, and there's no easy shortcut for that. It's just persistence and getting the right introductions, and in the last sort of 2 years, we're starting to see that pay off. There's actually, more and more batteries are coming back to the manufacturers. They've got more opportunity to do something with them. And yeah, so we've got more and more pilots going out, and these are kind of leading on to follow on bigger projects. And the ultimate idea is that we can supply our technology at scales, plug them onto the batteries, and yeah, it's either a supply or a licensing deal after that.
Who are your competitors and how big are they?
Yeah, so actually some of the car companies are trying to do it themselves, not with electronics, but actually testing each and every single battery cell that comes out. And basically what they do is test and grade and put them all together, so they're all very similar capacities. But the problem with that approach is that it doesn't prevent the weakest link from subsequently forming again, and it's quite laborious and time-consuming. So with our electronics, you don't really need to do any testing at all. You just plug it straight on and away you go. We also have some other electronic companies who are trying to do a similar sort of thing, where I would say we differentiate ourselves is because of the fact we can integrate the battery inverter, because we can produce a very precise waveform, so you don't need an inverter anymore. So that takes out a big chunk of cost, and there's no other electronics company doing that as far as we're aware.
Thank you. Tom, in the home storage market, do you have any actual commercial units out in the field with customers? And if so, who sold those? Was that you or working through a power supplier or what?
So in home energy storage, we have done a project with IBM and Cellectronic, who are based in Australia. We did that about a year ago. We, at the moment, are really pursuing bigger batteries, commercial and grid scale. That's where we see the real advantage of volume coming into effect, and it makes our electronics even cheaper. So I'd say that's probably where we'll commercialize our technology first, sort of small grid batteries and going all the way up. But home energy storage is very much on the horizon. We'd like to talk to manufacturers of new batteries in that regard and, really help enable them to last longer also.
Right, we have our very final picture this afternoon. We have AI on Spectrum. Welcome to the stage. Give her a round of applause. Sounds like you got some fans.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jillian, and I'm from AI on Spectrum. Now, I'd like to start my pitch by asking you guys a question. How many of you actually know what autism is? Can I have a show of hands? Yeah, looks about right. About 49% of Australians claim that they know what autism is. But in actual fact, only 4% of the autistic community agree that the social community actually knows how to support them. So what AI on Spectrum does is that we help kids with autism build better connections. I'd like to challenge your thinking around autism. I'd like you to think about it not as a medical disability, but as a social disability. You may be wondering, what does that mean? A social disability is when a person is disabled by their environment. Now, autism is often regarded very negatively. These people are often described as, being very awkward, very antisocial, maybe sometimes exhibiting weird or negative behavior, such as biting, scratching, or kicking people whenever they're displeased. But in actual fact, let's hear it from the horse's mouth. So these are my advisors, and they're also my employers at the clinic where I work at. So these autistic children struggle to form meaningful relationships with other people because they don't know how to connect with them. And in turn, they feel misunderstood, are unable to regulate their emotions, and engage in repetitive behavior to compensate. So the statistics for this is that 75% of those with autism need help with cognitive and emotional tasks. 49% of them also need help with communication. And we know that these children die younger compared to their respective peers. The average life expectancy is only just under 40 years old. And the reason for that is not just because of injury or illness. It's actually because they experience social isolation. They feel so misunderstood by the world that they actually kill themselves. So as you can see, 30 to 50% of them have actually considered suicide. Also, we understand that there's a demand for therapy, but parents are struggling with the high costs of therapy. Just diagnosis alone will cost them anywhere from $850 to $2,000. And the minimum wait time, it's 12 months. So let's just take a look at the market size for Australia. 1 in 70 individuals are diagnosed with ASD. And in the world, there are 1 in 59 in the USA, as well as 1 in 150. That sounds like a pretty big market, and it's true, because autism actually costs the government around $60 billion every single year. And the numbers are just rising, because there is increased need for assistive technology, as well as supportive environments for them. And unfortunately, the world is not built for supportive differences. So what we've done is we've built an app called Emodo. What we aim to do is we aim to help children learn how to recognize emotions, label them, and communicate them. So we believe that building awareness of emotions and helping them to label them can enable them to understand the triggers behind their behavior and signal for help from their peers if they need it. We also offer coping strategies to them, such as mindfulness activities, as well as strategies for them to sort of calm down when they're having a meltdown or a shutdown. So what makes us different from our competitors? We offer better communication strategies. So we actually have a behavioral tracker for parents to make sure that they are keeping their children away from the triggers, as well as we will also include augmentative communication. Now, we've had the opportunity to run some closed beta testing at the clinic where I work at, and we've had some positive and overwhelming results. Moving on to the business model, the initial offering for the neurodiverse individuals will be free, but then for parents and carers to access more detailed statistics, they'll actually have to pay a premium subscription. And for clinicians as well as schools and hospitals, we'll offer a licensing system. So these are my teams. At the moment, Anton and Kat are my tech team, and I'm the psychology graduate. So what we're asking from you today is potential investment so we can scale our operations.
Well done. Over to the judges.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the results. I know that you sort of mentioned that different percentages of people that would use the app, but what were the actual sort of tangible results upon using the app?
Yeah, so at the moment we're testing out the emotion recognition component, and parents are finding that it's a very useful app in terms of teaching their children about emotions, because what we're using as the old model at the clinic is actually inanimate objects on flashcards and pictures. So the children are finding it very hard to relate to the emotions that are actually on paper. So we find that, you know, after using the app, they actually found it easier to relate to the actual emotion because they can see it happening on actual faces instead of just inanimate objects.
And you have that data recorded?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Julian, you're clearly a clinician, and this is a big stage in a really big room. So I want to, on the topic of emotions, I want to thank you for doing such a great job of pushing through. And thank you. So all I wanted to say was that I'm an entrepreneurial resident with an accelerator program called Remarkable, and we focus on disabilities of various kinds. We've had a couple of neurodiversity startups through our program. Come and talk to me afterwards, and we'll see about getting you to apply.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I have a follow-up questions on the results. How many people did you actually have like using it?
So I tested it with approximately 200 children.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to know a little bit more about your diagnosis process.
So at the moment, the diagnosis process is separate, so we don't actually do it. But in real life, you actually require cross-institutional diagnosis. So for example, you need a pediatrician, and you also need an OT, which is an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, as well as a psychologist. So the parents have to pick two, and the official diagnosis has to come from the pediatrician. So you can understand that the process is very long and tedious.
Could you talk a little bit more about your revenue model?
So at the moment, it's sort of like a freemium model. So the initial app offering, as I mentioned, for kids will be free. But then if the parents want access to the additional features, such as, you know, more advanced emotions, as well as, for example, the progress report, they will need to pay a subscription model, and that will cost them approximately $200 a year.
And how many people have downloaded the app to date?
At the moment, we're only doing closed beta testing. Okay. So it's a face-to-face direct test, testing model.
You said you are looking to scale. How much money do you want to raise?
To be really honest with you, I would say approximately $1 million just to run the clinical trials at the moment, because I don't want this to just be a gamification app. I want this to actually be something that has the science behind it.
Right, drum roll, please, everyone. Our third place winner is AI on Spectrum. Come to the stage. Yay, congratulations. And you obviously also have a meeting with the amazing Alan Jones as well, so just stay here for a moment. Right, next drum roll. Our runners-up is Everty. Come to the stage. Sorry, I just like dancing, so, you know, it's just an excuse. All right, and our winners. Come on, everyone, make a bit of noise. And our winners for the 2020 PauseFest Startup Competition, courtesy of AWS, is Medinet Australia. Come to the stage.